in 1998. So yeah, they had pretty much a lengthy feud with one another. The Raw the night after Survivor Series was held in Lexington. Shamrock would beat Bossman in a DQ in just over 3 minutes when both hit the ref at one point. So yeah, it's interesting, and that's probably because of what happened. So the interesting thing here, Matt, is that like Shamrock is a heel essentially, but now he's kind of playing a little bit as a face as well. I think it's kind of it's almost like mixed messages here because obviously Bossman's in the corporation, and you know because of he's been hard done by, it's like well now he's playing babyface. So I think there's kind of mixed messages going on there in a little way. Let's get some fun facts around this point then. So we're in November of 1998 here. The WWF have purchased for $1.6 million a 30-second spot match during the Super Bowl for the year coming. That's a hell of a lot of money to get a commercial in, isn't it? 30 seconds.
Yeah, it is, but I guess where will you hit a wider audience than that, I guess. Maybe it's worth the price tag, but man, that is one hell of a figure to pay there.
Yeah, well, it must have been, and I guess you're right. I mean, that many eyes, I suppose. It's just weird to think 30 seconds, 1.6 million. Whoever gets that advert, whoever gets the responsibilities of it, they've got to do a hell of a job. Cool, blimey. WrestleMania tickets will be going on sale soon from Philadelphia, priced, get this, from $400 down to $25. Which will be in the 99 WrestleMania. Another fun fact here as well, WWF have reached an agreement to have their products sold worldwide at the amusement parks, fairs and carnivals. So that's interesting that they would get in there with those as well. So they seem like they're on the up and up with everything that they're selling, just nothing other than the kitchen sink with them guys. The house shows in November for Shamrock feature him against Mankind, and he's winning those ones. WWF then from the end of November at Raw, Shamrock beats X-Pac via DQ, just over 4 minutes. There was Michaels distracted the ref, and Bossman clothesline X-Pac after he'd done the X Factor. So we're talking about a time here where there was a whole DX corporation dynamic going on with the feuding, so that's probably why that happened. Raw the week after would see Shamrock and Bossman teaming up together, Matt, against X-Pac and Triple H. It was a great match, Meltzer reports, with great heat. That went over quite well. December 14th now, 1998, and the Big Boss Man and Ken Shamrock get some help from Shawn Michaels to capture the WWF Tag Team titles match. So, for anybody that doesn't understand because we have jumped straight into this, but I want to talk about this a little bit, Matt. I'm sure you'll remember when the whole thing went down here between Shamrock and Bossman. So, at one point they kind of go out and they have this match, and then like kind of a little bit through the match, I think Vince McMahon, at the end of it when it's like given a DQ, Vince McMahon comes out and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? You shouldn't be fighting each other. Every corporation needs a world's dangerous man." And they offer, Shamrock this way in to the corporation, and obviously Bossman and Shamrock make up. This is, of course, The Rock is the kind of front man to it. Is this something you remember, Matt, when all that went down, the whole beginning of the corporation? I mean, I remember this quite fondly throughout all this, but is this something you remember, Matt, and any memories from this?
Yeah. I mean, I do remember this, and I was kind of thinking at this time. I was thinking, well, if they're going to have Shamrock, then how big is this thing going to be? How many members is there going to be in this thing? I was thinking, because he wasn't exactly one of the ones that I was expecting would have been chosen at that time.
Yeah, no, totally. Kind of I mean, I didn't have a problem with him joining the corporation because I felt like it gave him, he'd be working with Vince McMahon, who was obviously getting the most heat in general, so he was going to be involved in some big stuff. But I don't know, like it was an interesting choice, I suppose, to have Shamrock there. And yeah, a little bit after that, obviously we got Shamrock and Bossman, December 14th here, winning the tag team titles from the New Age Outlaws, when Shawn Michaels kind of like done pretty much most of the dirty work there when he was involved with the corporation as well. What do you make as Bossman and Shamrock as a unit, Matt, as a tag team? Is that because very mixed reviews on these two guys, whether they were actually that good as a team together? What did you think about the dynamic between those two?
Well, no denying that separately they're great wrestlers, but yeah, definitely as a tag team, I can't really remember too much of them doing anything that was worth noting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the matches that I do remember them two having, I don't really remember them having any problems. I thought it was pretty solid enough for me. I mean, from what they were working within, like within the corporation kind of confounds, they might have been one of the best combinations that could have come up with that needed Shamrock to have a partner.
Sure. Yeah, so it was interesting. I'm sure you remember this pay-per-view, Matt. World Wrestling Federation's Capital Carnage, coming from the United Kingdom, only on pay-per-view, which was on Sky Box Office at the time. It was the one that featured Vinnie Jones, Matt. Do you remember that one at all?
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. So many classic moments like that keep popping up in the UK little pay-per-views.
Yeah, got to say, I might as well make mention of this now, is that at this time, when we used to get pay-per-views in this country, I think it was pretty much a given, Matt, that we were never going to see a few things. One, we were never going to see a title change that much. Probably never get a turn either from a wrestler. So it was one of those sort of times where, yeah, they did used to sell it all on Sky Box Office, but really and truly, nothing big was going to happen. And I guess the main thing here that they propped up so big in our faces was the hard man, Vinnie Jones. We're bringing him in to try and sell the show. This night, Ken Shamrock would get a victory over Steve Blackman with an ankle lock submission to retain the Intercontinental Championship in 8 minutes. Bossman interfered toward the finish. Meltzer gives this match a 1.5 star onto this one. So obviously, as we reported, he's the Intercontinental Champion, but he's also the Tag Team Champion as well. So he's holding 2 belts at this time anyway. So I guess it's not all too bad for Shamrock around this moment. We then get to another pay-per-view, Matt, and I'm sure you remember this one as well, coming towards the end of the year, which is Rock Bottom, Matt. Remember that one? Sure. It seems like the December pay-per-view is always like the gimmick, the character pay-per-view. Like it was DX the year before, now it's Rock Bottom on this one. And this is interesting because the Outlaws beat Shamrock and Big Boss Man to retain, to get their titles back. This match goes just quite a while, over 17 minutes. Meltzer reports that the end of the Bossman Shamrock tag team is welcomed to most fans. Felt like they never really got much going off from each other in the whole thing. So it wasn't a whole long run with those guys at all at the time as tag team champions. The Raw after that, we have Shane McMahon who. Let's read this. Shane McMahon. Now, I remember when he first came in, there was this whole, who's he with? Is he with his dad or isn't he with his dad? And is he going to be in the corporation? Isn't he going to be in the corporation? And all the rest of it. But, he's kind of like being insulted for the fans or insulting the fans for 10 minutes. The show ended on this particular Raw with The Rock, Shamrock and Bossman all destroying poor old Mankind. At the end, so yes, Shamrock is very, very much heavily ended. And of course, the Raw the week after that, the 21st to the 12th. So we're getting right to the back end of the year here in 1998. Billy Gunn beats Ken Shamrock when he was reversed into an arm lock in that match, but it was a non-title match nonetheless. Even though Billy Gunn thinks he's become the new Intercontinental Champion, Shawn Michaels comes out and says basically something along the lines of, you've got a £1 million body and a 10% brain, because he never said it was a title match at the end of that. Of course, this was, the Raw mat. I think everybody, if you're a huge Attitude fan, you'll remember this one very fondly. This is the night that Mankind captured the WWF title from The Rock, due to the outside interference of Steve Austin, who come down at the end. That was a great, it's got to be one of the biggest pops I've ever seen from a live audience. If you put that in, I'm sure you can just put that into your YouTube or Google it, or go on the WWE Network. That is just fascinating to see how many people just are going absolutely nuts when Mankind finally gets the win, especially when Austin comes down. It's so well done, the whole thing. Matt, as we get to the end of this part, of course, mainly summing up 1998, is this steady progress still for you for Shamrock here, where we're at now, just reviewing this year, but or do you see this as a slight sort of, he's hitting a brick wall every time?
I think it's definitely better than what he was achieving in 97. I mean, the potential was all there then, but at least in 98, it's like he has moved a step up the ladder, sure. Now obtaining singles titles, and like perhaps now like getting matches of the level of heavyweight title, so I guess it feels like a slow climb, but at least he's moving up the ladder. Sure,
yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like it's. At the beginning of the year, I was kind of thinking when you review it like this, like, okay, so he's the WWF of obviously looking at The Rock. The Rock is their guy. He's the next one going up, and I think, especially when you get to the end of this year, you can pretty much tell that The Rock is their guy. I think the unfortunate thing for Shamrock, Matt, is that he is also the guy that is working with him the most on the pay-per-views. So he's got to be the one that, although, he got that King of the Ring victory, ultimately it's kind of Shamrock doing the honours for getting The Rock over here to that next level. And obviously they're in the corporation together, and Shamrock is essentially the henchman for, the bodyguard type for The Rock. It's not the other way round. So he's not the facing out of this and this type of stuff. But however, I will say that Shamrock has been, I think when you look at the stuff with Owen Hart, you've got to say that he's probably still on the right lengths as far as, he's not been sort of, I don't think they've given up on him totally here. I think like they still see him potentially becoming something more. Okay, Matt, well, thank you as always for this part of the Ken Shamrock Wrestle Line that we're doing here. Been pretty decent, and always a pleasure to have you on.
No, it's been great being here, and incredibly insightful as always. Love hearing and learning more and more about wrestlers, and in particular Shamrock this week.
Yeah, don't forget, next time, folks, we're going to be ending Ken Shamrock's Wrestle Line with part 3, and you can tune that into next 2 weeks. We'll be back. If you've got any comments, or you've got any anything you'd like to add to this, or any suggestions to the show, don't forget, email us at wrestleline@gmail.com. Always like to hear from you guys to see how we're doing. We listen to most things on this show. So until next time, folks, we draw the line on this one, and we'll be back in the next 2 weeks with the final part of Ken Shamrock.